Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with patch 5.1c tier list. Of course, it's going to be the last patch of 5.1 most likely. Not D patches are not very common, but honestly not too much has really changed from my past tier list. I believe I did a tier list just for last patch 5.1b, which is why normally I don't do tier lists every patch, because generally almost nothing changes. Most things generally just remain the same, because most patches don't have such big changes. Of course, the biggest changes are at the major patches, and also at certain patches there are just major changes. But anyways, the main major change here is the addition of MAOKAI. So let's talk about MAOKAI first. So MAOKAI is simply just too strong of a champion. So you will see him in 3 different roles: top lane, jungle, as well as support. Now, I think personally that top lane is his strongest lane, because I think that MAOKAI's dueling is very strong. He has a lot of CC, he has a lot of tankiness, a lot of healing, a lot of sustain, just really difficult to kill, and just does too much damage simply based on the fact that he is too tanky. Like, he gets off like so many rotations of his spells because he is so tanky and he cannot die. I've had games where 5 people dogpile onto a MAOKAI and can't even kill him. He actually escapes. Like, there's no way that that should be happening. I fully expect MAOKAI to be getting a nerf in the next patch, or at some point soon. Like, sometimes it's not the next patch, sometimes it's like 2 patches later, because they tend to release champions strong to like build their player base and to kind of let people try out the champion when it's strong, which is just a common trend of all new champions. So I do expect him to get nerfed eventually, but for now he's just really strong. And people haven't even discovered how to play him properly yet. I see so many people taking the wrong runes, building him wrong, not using his ulti correctly, which is from a distance. Some people use it point blank, which basically makes it useless. And you know, he's not even very optimized. It's in players are not optimized using him yet, and he is already very strong. So you can only imagine if people actually play him correctly. But yeah, so MAOKAI definitely the strongest top laner at the moment. Of course, the rest of the tanks are still very strong. Urgot, Sion, the Ornn, and I've moved Garen back up from S to S plus tier after he got buffed, and I still think he's really strong. Now Gwen is there because she just counters all of the tanks, and if you counter all of the best champions in the top lane, you have to be you know, up there, right? Most other basically the rest of the tier list kind of remains the same. The only other change we have is on Riven, which is, of course, Riven did get the rework with the alt reset, but honestly I think that while this rework made her a lot stronger, it still doesn't really change very much, in the sense that although it changes a lot, it doesn't really change very much. It sounds a bit contradictory, but basically what I'm trying to mean to say here is that if you're good at Riven, this rework is going to make her a lot more insane. But if you're not, it really isn't going to change very much, because remember, it is a reset, so you still need to be able to have the skill to operate Riven, kill somebody, and get the reset, and then, you know, continue on to killing other people. So on that note, while this rework does make her a lot stronger, I mean, she literally is getting to ult again and again, it only really helps people who are good on Riven. So honestly, the rework was not as insane as I imagined, because honestly there are not that many good Riven players on the Rift. But with top lane out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the jungle. So to no one's surprise, MAOKAI is also in the S plus tier for the jungle. But first, of course, we're going to talk about the rest of it. I still think in terms of assassins, Lee Sin, Kha'Zix, and Kayn, even Red Kayn assassin build, as in Red Kayn but building lethality, is also really good. Blue Kayn, of course, still really good. Viego has gotten 1 round of nerfs, but I still think he is really strong, and I still ban Viego every game personally. Lilia I underestimated a little bit in the previous patch, and even though she got nerfed, I actually think Lilia is actually really strong. She does insane amounts of damage, and it turns out that there are, you know, Lilia is really not that hard to play. So it's not hard to execute whatsoever. So a lot of people have a lot of success with Lilia, and I have seen a lot of good Lilia games from both my team and the enemy teams. I really think she is very strong. MAOKAI, as we covered just, you know, minutes ago, super duper tanky now. What I didn't cover is actually his AP build. So of course MAOKAI can build full AP as well. I've tried it. It's completely trash, because with his AP build, you are incredibly squishy. You die instantly, And you can one-shot people, yes, but it's not very easy to do that. And with tank, it's just so much easier to play, and you still end up doing like the same amount of damage in the end. It's just that you take a lot longer to get out that damage compared to AFK MAOKAI. But tank MAOKAI is by far the superior version of MAOKAI, and in the jungle context, Maokai's ganks are insane. You can use your ulti to gank. Of course, you have your W route into the knockup to gank. Maokai's ganks are insane. His clear is pretty alright. And he is just an insane champion at the moment. S tier, I've dropped Evelynn down. I still think Evelynn is really, really strong. It's just that she's played very, very little, which I'm very happy about. But I think Evelynn is really very strong. Invisibility and just one-shots people. Hecarim also really strong. I mean, honestly, like champions like Evelynn and Hecarim could be like S+ tier champions also, but as I said, I want to try to limit S+ to 5, and I've already cheated a bit by going to 6, and I don't want to put like 10 S+ tier champions. It doesn't really make so much sense anymore if that's the case. Okay, but yeah, so a lot of other junglers are still very strong. You know, we still have the Kindreds, the Talons of the world. Xin Zhao, after his buffs, really, really strong. Things like that. And I've actually dropped down like champions like Pantheon, Rammus, and Vi, as well as Jarvan from the S tier, because honestly, I don't think that they're as strong as some other S tier champions like Hecarim or Evelynn, for example. So I kind of dropped them down to A+ tier. So we have a very huge A+ tier at the moment. Riven, I've actually moved her up because, again, with the jungle and with the resets, again, you still have to be good at Riven to really make it work. But with the resets, you have a lot of snowball potential and just a lot more power in your kit if you know how to use it properly. The rest of the tier list basically remains the same, so we're going to talk about mid lane. Okay, so for mid lane, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, basically nothing changed. The only thing that I really changed is I moved Syndra down 2 positions and put Zoe and Akali above her, simply because I think that Zoe and Akali are way easier to execute. Not easier to execute. All 3 of them are really hard champions, but at this point, Akali and Zoe have been in the game for so long that there are so many good Akali and Zoe players. I've seen so many insane Akali players. I've seen a good number of really good Zoe players. Of course, I've seen a good number of horrible Zoe players as well that can't land any spells. But Syndra is still a little bit too new. So I think that maybe putting her as the best mid lane champion was in hindsight maybe not the best idea, because honestly, since that last video I said that I've seen like one good Syndra, I've probably not seen any other like amazing Syndras either. Like everyone's just okay at that champion. I haven't really seen any amazing Syndras at all. In fact, most of them can't even hit their E on me. I normally just dodge the scatter of the weak, so I really can't find too many good Syndras. But I believe that when people finally get good at the champion, she might be the best mid lane champion. I still think a champion like Vladimir is completely insane. I see him like carrying like every single time he's picked. I mean, even when Vladimir is like feeding, he's still very hard to kill because of his ulti and because of his pool, and he often just baits you into his team, and everyone always falls for the trap. So I just think Vladimir is a very strong champion. If he's fed, he's gonna one shot you. If he is feeding, he's gonna make it very hard for you to kill him. And again, mid lane has so many strong champions in the S tier and the A+ tier. You can see so many amazing champions to play. They are all just really I mean, honestly, in the mid lane for quite a long time now, it's hard to find bad champions to play in the mid lane. Like unless you're playing like Morgana mid lane or something like that. Honestly, most champions are gonna be quite good in the mid lane for one reason or the other. It's just very matchup dependent. For example, let's take a look here. Let's say you're playing Twisted Fate into a Yasuo. So Twisted Fate into someone else who is a lot easier to play. Let's say Twisted Fate into Lux. It's a lot easier matchup than Twisted Fate into Yasuo. So for example, Yasuo can win wall your stun card, and he can outplay you, and he has kill potential on you. As Lux, you know, unless you keep running into a route, it's gonna have a lot harder time killing you. So it's kind of a lot more matchup dependent than really whether you're in the S+ tier or the A+ tier or something like that. But anyways, with the mid lane discussed, let's talk about ADCs. Okay, so ADC is obviously my main role. It's probably where I shifted the most things around. So first up, I actually think Lucian is now the best ADC, coming a little bit out of left field. And honestly, this is because of 2 reasons. Firstly, they buffed him a couple of times, and with just a normal like Bloodthirster build, he is very strong. But we also have that new gambling, you know, dice roll, coin flip build that you go for IE into into Solari, into Magnetic Blaster, and that build is honestly kind of insane. Not because of the gambling aspect of it, but because of the damage profile of it. Because we know that Solari allows you to do crit magic damage, and Blaster also allows you to do crit magic damage to multiple people. So what this basically does is Lucian now becomes like a hybrid ADC. He becomes like a Corki, where he does like, I think like about 40% AP damage and 60% AD damage, which makes him very hard to itemize against. Like even if tanks stack armor, you still have good damage on him because of the AP. And what's even more insane about that is that Lucian has so much burst damage, he basically plays like an assassin. You can just one-shot squishy targets. So Lucian is completely insane right now. Kaisa I still think is incredibly strong, both her AP build and her AD build, especially because she is a champion who can rush Terminus first item, just because of how she does mix damage innately. Like she does do AP damage like from her passive and things like that. Terminus first item on her is insane, which initially I thought was not the case, but now I'm starting to realize that it is indeed the case. I'm eventually going to make some Kaisa videos on Terminus first item. So stay tuned for that. Zaya, of course, ever since the buff, still incredibly strong, especially into the correct team comp. Even into the wrong team comp, she is still pretty good, honestly. She's still a pretty decent ADC. Tristana, again, really underplayed right now, but I still think is very good. Varus can build 10 different builds and is just, in general, just really strong. Now, Samira, I dropped down from S+ to S because as someone rightfully pointed out in the comments of my last tier list video, it's kind of impossible for Samira to be S+. It's kind of like how Katarina can never really be S+, because you get carded by point and click CC, and you can't pick her in every match and have success. That's the problem, right? Unless the enemy team trolls and doesn't CC you, but if they're playing correctly, that should not be the case. Now, Ezreal, I considered putting him in S+, but I didn't for one main reason, which is that even though he's very strong now and he does a lot of damage, it's really hard for him to carry. Like, I've had so many Ezreal games that I started the game like 5-0, and I hard stop my lane. But the whole rest of my team is feeding. And I cannot carry the game. So even if I don't die for the rest of the game, even if I end the game like 10-0, I still gonna lose the game because he has no wave clear to kind of stop the enemy from ending the game. And he also has really little carry potential when you compare him to other champions. Like, let's say if I was a fat Lucian, I could just one-shot somebody at that point. If I was a fat Tristana or a Kaisa, I could, you know, just hyper carry and just kill the entire enemy team. But with Ezreal, it's really difficult to kill the entire enemy team because you're a very single target and you have to really kill them one by one. And by the time they realize they're dying, they're just gonna run away. Like the moment the first person or the second person dies, the rest of the team is running away. They're not gonna be standing there letting you attack them. So Ezreal, I think just a little bit of lack of carry potential, has to, you know, be stuck a little bit in the S tier. So the A+ tier and the A tier more or less remains the same. Now Jhin, I nearly dropped him down to A tier, but after discovering that one-shot lethality, not lethality, but I mean kind of lethality, but you start off with lethality, that build that I covered in my updated complete guide on Jhin a little bit ago, I actually think he is probably A+ tier. Not good enough to be S, but not trash enough to be A, so he is still pretty decent. But the main story here is I've actually dropped MF and Twitch to B tier, where it was only populated by Sen. I really think Twitch is... I don't see why you would ever pick Twitch, to be very honest. Like Jinx, Zeri, Kaisa, Tristana are just way better hyper carries than Twitch. The only novel part about Twitch is his invisibility and his ability to like sneak in and assassinate someone. But if you really wanted to assassinate someone, why not just go for the Lucian or the Kaisa, who can also just one-shot someone instead of going for Twitch? And with MF, I think the rework made her a lot worse. I think before rework, she wasn't even that good. But, you know, I guess we didn't know what we had until we lost it. Because now that she's gotten reworked, I think that the pre-rework MF is just so much better. I think MF needs a bunch of buffs. She just does not do enough damage unless you're snowballing and you're Giga Fed. Of course, we just covered MF yesterday. And I'm going to have a new Lethality MF video coming out really soon as well, where you can see how MF can be really strong if the situation is correct. But just in general, if you're even or that you're behind, you just don't do any damage. That's just the issue. So you have to be far ahead to carry on MF, and that's just really bad. I think she might even be worse than Twitch, to be honest. Yeah, MF is just not in a very good spot right now. But finally, let's take a look at support. Okay, last but not least, we have support, and essentially almost everything has kind of remained the same here. There's only a couple changes. Now, the first change, of course, is the addition of MAOKAI at the bottom of the S+ tier. Now, honestly, personally, I played with MAOKAI support quite a bit, and I barely consider MAOKAI a support because it's really, really difficult to follow up on Maokai's engages, because Maokai's W range is surprisingly long. It's not long, but it's longer than what you'd think. So Maokai jumps over, roots the guy for like less than a second, by which time you're only just kind of reaching the scene, he pushes them back towards you, and if he doesn't like take glacial or whatnot, it's really difficult to kind of really follow up on his engage. So of course Maokai is not really meant to be a support. He's more of a jungler or slash top laner, so he's not really a support. But just because of how OP he is in terms of how tanky he is and how much damage he does, even though he's so tanky, he simply you know how it works, that whenever a champion is strong, they're going to be played in every single role that they can be played in. It's just like how, for example, when like there was like a time, I believe, that like Riven or Fiora were like very strong, and they were not just being played in top lane, they're being played in mid lane, they're being played in jungle, and basically any lane that you can play the champion in, if they're strong, they're going to be played in. Just like how, like, for example, there was a time that like Lucian was OP. Arguably now Lucian is OP. You play him mid lane, you play him top lane, you play him in the ADC role. I've even seen Lucian jungle one time, which I think is completely troll, but you get my point. So basically, the only real reason why Maokai is here and ranks so highly in the support tier is because as a champion, he is just broken. And when a champion is broken, they're gonna be played in every lane, every role that's you know, that they can viably be played in, even sometimes not viably be played in, and yeah. So he's just a really strong champion. Not too much to say about that. I've dropped Soraka and Lulu down a little bit because I just think that Karma, Pyke, Maokai as well as Lux is a step up from them. But I think the S tier supports are all just really amazing as well. Like, of course, we have the Enchanters, the Lulu, Soraka, and Yumis of the world. And of course, we have a lot of nice engagers as well, like Leona and Rakan, you know, things like that. And yeah, again, the support tier list doesn't change very much. But that's it for the tier list. Of course, we're probably going to do another one for the next patch, because that's probably going to be where all the big changes come in if we get a major patch and not a D patch. But thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.